There is a flatness to Los Angeles that makes you forget where you actually are. Palm trees planted in perfect rows, freeways humming under a sky that's blue 300 days a year, sprinklers ticking across front lawns at 6 in the morning. It feels less like nature and more like a set, something built, paved, finished. Here's what that flatness is hiding. There are venomous animals within a few feet of where people in this city walk, sit, and sleep every single day. Los Angeles sits inside one of the most biodiverse counties in the continental United States, wedged between an ocean, a mountain range, and a desert. And almost none of what actually lives here made it into the postcard. Some of it you've swum next to. Some of it has been living 2 blocks from your apartment longer than you have. And the thing at number 1 has been floating a few hundred yards off some of the most crowded beaches in America the entire time you've been sunbathing on them. Today, we're counting down 15 dangerous animals of Los Angeles and Southern California. If you're the kind of person who wants to actually know the city you live in, hit subscribe before we start. It genuinely helps this channel keep making these. And tell me in the comments, which neighborhood are you watching this from? Let's get into it. Number 15, the brown widow spider. We start with an animal that has quietly taken over your backyard without you noticing the coup. The brown widow spider isn't native to California at all. It's originally from South Africa, and it was first spotted in Los Angeles and San Diego back in 2003. Since then, it has done something almost no one predicted. It has spread through the urban core so fast that in some neighborhoods, it now outnumbers the native black widow by a wide margin. Researchers who study spiders in the LA basin have found brown widows clustered under patio furniture, inside the curled lip of potted plants, in playground equipment, and in the recessed handles of your trash cans, exactly where your fingers go without looking. The good news is that its bite is milder than a black widow's. The bad news is that it's now one of the most common spiders you'll actually touch in Los Angeles, and most people who live here have no idea it's not supposed to be here at all. Number 15 is the quiet invasion happening in plain sight, right at hand height. Number 14, the backyard scorpion. Somewhere in the city right now, there is very likely a scorpion sitting motionless under a rock in someone's front yard, waiting for the sun to go down. Southern California is home to several native scorpion species, and while they're nowhere near as dangerous as their desert cousins in Arizona, a sting still delivers a sharp, burning pain that can last for hours. What makes them genuinely eerie is how they're found. Scorpions glow a vivid blue-green under ultraviolet light, which means the same patio you've walked across barefoot 100 times might reveal a dozen of them the moment you shine a black light across it at night. They hide under stones, in shoes left outside, and inside stacked patio furniture all day, completely invisible until the sun sets and the temperature drops. Reach into a shoe you left on the porch, or grab a folded patio chair without checking underneath first, and your hand finds out before your eyes do. Number 14 isn't the deadliest animal on this list. It's the reminder that your own backyard has a night shift you've never seen. Number 13, the Southern Pacific rattlesnake. This is the snake that actually earns its place in these hills. The Southern Pacific rattlesnake lives throughout the canyons and foothills ringing Los Angeles, Griffith Park, the trails above Hollywood, the Angeles National Forest, exactly the terrain where people go to hike, run, and walk their dogs every single weekend. A bite from an adult carries enough venom to cause serious tissue damage and requires immediate medical treatment. Here's the part that surprises people. Rattlesnakes would much rather avoid you entirely. They rely on camouflage first, stillness second, and the rattle only as a last resort. Some snakes barely rattle at all before striking, especially if they feel cornered. Every year, LA hikers report snakes coiled inches from a trail they've walked dozens of times before, completely unnoticed until that exact moment. Number 13 isn't hiding in some remote wilderness. It's coiled beside trailheads a 15-minute drive from downtown. Number 12, the brown recluse myth. Now, for one of the strangest entries on this list, an animal that's dangerous mainly because everyone in Los Angeles is convinced it's here, when it almost certainly isn't. The brown recluse spider has a genuinely nasty bite that can cause a slow-healing wound. But according to researchers at the University of California, brown recluse spiders do not have an established population anywhere in coastal Southern California. And yet, doctors across LA still see patients every year convinced they've been bitten by one. In reality, most of those wounds turn out to be bacterial infections, other insect bites, or bites from entirely different local spiders. The recluse's reputation has spread faster and farther than the spider itself ever has. Number 12 is proof that in this city, the fear of an animal can do more damage to how people understand their own backyard than the animal itself. Number 11, the western black-legged tick. Most people associate Lyme disease with the forests of the Northeast, not the dry canyon trails of Southern California. But the western black-legged tick lives in the coastal brush and oak woodlands that wind through the hills around Los Angeles, and it carries the same bacteria responsible for Lyme disease. It's a patient hunter. A tick doesn't chase you. It waits on the tip of a blade of grass or a low branch with its front legs extended and simply grabs on as your ankle or your dog's fur brushes past. You feel nothing. No bite, no pinch, nothing that makes you stop and check. It just rides along, finds skin, and settles in. And because a tick this size is barely visible and its bite is painless, the actual moment of exposure passes completely unnoticed, sometimes for hours before the illness it can trigger shows up days or weeks later. Number 11 doesn't hide in a den or a burrow. It rides home with you after an ordinary hike in the hills you've done a dozen times. Number 10, the Africanized honeybee. Here's a fact that surprises even longtime Angelinos. Killer bees are not a Southern movie trope. They're an established resident of Los Angeles County. Africanized honeybees first crossed into California near Blythe in 1994, and within just a few years, colonies were confirmed throughout Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. They look almost identical to the ordinary honeybees people have known for generations, but they defend their hive far more aggressively, respond to vibration and noise from much farther away, and will pursue a threat for a longer distance than European honeybees ever would. A lawnmower running near a wall cavity or kids playing near an old shed can be enough to trigger a mass defensive swarm. Number 10 looks exactly like the bee your grandparents weren't afraid of and behaves nothing like it. We're halfway through the list, and if you're still here, you're clearly someone who actually wants to understand the wild side of this city hiding behind the traffic and the palm trees. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the moment, because the second half of this list gets a lot stranger than backyard bugs. Number 9, the striped skunk. The most familiar backyard animal in Los Angeles might also be its most underrated health risk. In California, the striped skunk, not the raccoon, is one of the primary carriers of the terrestrial rabies strain found in the state. Skunks are sold unbothered by porch lights and comfortable digging under sheds and decks in the middle of dense residential neighborhoods. Most encounters end with nothing worse than a memorable smell. But a skunk that seems unusually calm, wanders in broad daylight, or approaches people without fear is showing exactly the behavioral shift associated with rabies infection. And once symptoms appear, the disease is almost always fatal. Number 9 is the animal everyone in LA has a story about and almost no one takes seriously enough. Number 8, the coyote. Everyone in Los Angeles knows coyotes exist here. What people underestimate is how bold they've become. Coyotes move through greenbelt storm drains, golf courses, and residential streets across the entire city, and they've learned that Los Angeles neighborhoods offer easy calories, unsecured trash, fallen fruit, and increasingly small pets left in yards after dark. Animal control agencies across the county field a steady stream of reports every year involving cats and small dogs taken from fenced yards. Sometimes while the owner was inside the house, a room away, hearing nothing. Coyotes aren't pack hunters chasing you down a hillside. They're patient, opportunistic, and comfortable, trotting down a sidewalk at dusk while residents are still walking home from work. Number 8 has fully adapted to city life, and it did it so gradually that most people never noticed the moment their neighborhood became its hunting ground. Number 7, the stingray. If you've ever waded into the water at a Southern California beach, there's a real chance you've walked directly over one of these. Round stingrays bury themselves in the sand in shallow water, completely invisible until a foot comes down directly on top of them, at which point the ray whips its tail up in self-defense, driving a venomous barb into the ankle or foot. Seal Beach in Orange County treats so many of these injuries every summer that lifeguards there have nicknamed it the stingray capital of the world. The fix is simple. Shuffle your feet instead of stepping, and the ray will feel the vibration and swim off before you ever make contact, but almost no tourist knows to do it. Number 7 isn't hiding in the deep water people are afraid of. It's resting in the ankle-deep shallows where children play. Number 6, the California sea lion. They look like the friendliest animals on the California coast until one decides you're standing too close to its territory. Around piers, marinas, and popular boat docks, California sea lions have grown comfortable enough around people that some individuals will approach for food. And a startled or provoked sea lion has a genuinely powerful bite. During breeding season, adult males in particular become far more aggressive defending territory and mates, and lifeguards along the coast regularly warn visitors not to get within several feet of a hauled-out sea lion, no matter how docile it looks lounging on a dock. Lean in a little too close for a photo, and an animal that looked half asleep a second ago can close the distance and bite faster than you can step back. Number 6 spends most of its day looking like a mascot, right up until it isn't one anymore. Number 5, the American black bear. Nobody expects a bear story out of greater Los Angeles, but the San Gabriel Mountains rise directly above foothill communities like Sierra Madre, Monrovia, and La Cañada Flint Ridge. And black bears regularly wander down out of that range and straight into residential neighborhoods. Local news across the region has covered bears strolling through backyards, climbing into swimming pools to cool off, and rifling through trash cans on quiet suburban streets, sometimes just blocks from a Starbucks. Most of these encounters end without incident because black bears generally want nothing to do with people. But a bear that's learned backyards mean easy food loses its natural wariness fast, and a fed bear is a fundamentally different, far bolder animal than the one that first came down the hillside. Number 5 is the animal you assumed lived hours away in the mountains, and it's actually living a short drive from the freeway. Number 4, the bobcat. With mountain lions and wolves long gone from most of the LA basin, the bobcat has quietly become one of the region's true apex predators, and almost no one ever sees one. Roughly twice the size of a house cat, bobcats move through the canyons, hillsides, and green corridors, threading through Los Angeles, hunting rabbits, ground squirrels, and birds at dawn and dusk, while staying almost entirely out of sight. They're genuinely common in places like Griffith Park and the Santa Monica Mountains. Researchers who track them find they live at surprisingly high densities in exactly the canyons where people hike every weekend. When someone does spot one, the usual reaction is disbelief. A house cat that got loose surely, not an actual wild predator working a hunting route through the same hills as the hiking trail. Number 4 has been watching from the brush the entire time you assumed you had the trail to yourself. Everything so far has been about animals that were always supposed to be here. The next 2 are not, and one of them turned into the strangest news story Los Angeles has ever produced. Number 3, Reggie the alligator. Now for the story that sounds completely made up and isn't. In August 2005, an alligator was spotted swimming in Machado Lake, a 53-acre lake inside a public park in Harbor City, deep in the middle of Los Angeles. It wasn't a myth or a rumor. It was a real American alligator, almost certainly an illegally kept pet that had outgrown its owner and been dumped into the lake. Officials nicknamed him Reggie, fenced off the entire lake, and brought in professional alligator wranglers. He evaded every single one of them for nearly 2 years, disappearing for over a year at a stretch, while the city spent close to $180,000 trying to catch him. Crowds gathered daily just to glimpse him basking on the shore. He wasn't finally captured until May 2007, when he was cornered on land and wrestled into a truck by a team of handlers, live on local news helicopters. Reggie now lives at the Los Angeles Zoo. Number 3 is proof that Los Angeles doesn't just have wildlife. It has wildlife with its own fan base and a 2-year media circus. Reggie made headlines for 2 years. The next animal on this list did something Reggie never managed. It lived undetected for a decade in a city obsessed with cameras without anyone knowing it was there at all. Number 2, the mountain lion. If one animal in Los Angeles became a genuine celebrity, it's this one. In February 2012, researchers photographed a young mountain lion in Griffith Park, a 9-square-mile island of wilderness completely surrounded by the city, and realized he'd somehow crossed 2 of the busiest freeways in the world, the 405 and the 101, to get there. They called him P22. For over a decade, he lived alone in a home range smaller than any adult male mountain lion had ever been recorded surviving in, sharing 8 square miles of parkland with hikers, joggers, and the Hollywood sign towering above him. He was photographed prowling below the sign for National Geographic, spotted resting on apartment staircases, and became the face of a movement that eventually broke ground on the largest wildlife crossing in the world, built specifically so future mountain lions wouldn't have to risk what he did. He died in December 2022, and thousands of people showed up to a public memorial for him. Number 2 is a full-grown apex predator who lived undetected in the middle of one of the most photographed cities on Earth for years before anyone even knew he was there. P22 was one animal in one park, and it still took 10 years for anyone to fully understand what he was doing. Number 1 isn't one animal at all. It's dozens of them in the water you've actually swum in, and it was only found because someone finally decided to look. Number 1, the juvenile great white shark nursery, and now the animal that makes everything else on this list look almost ordinary, because it isn't one animal, it's dozens of them, and most Angelinos have absolutely no idea they've shared the water with them. For years, marine biologists at the Cal State Long Beach Shark Lab have been tracking something remarkable happening just off the coast. Juvenile and newborn great white sharks are using the shallow, warm water along Southern California beaches, including Manhattan Beach, one of the most crowded stretches of coastline in the entire country, as a nursery. Researchers using drones have counted as many as 40 young sharks gathered at a single beach on a single afternoon, some just a few dozen yards from swimmers, surfers, and beach volleyball courts. And here's the twist that makes this genuinely different from a shark attack story. Bite incidents have not increased alongside the sightings. These sharks are lethargic, barely expending any energy, and researchers say they show almost no interest in people at all. They're simply resting and feeding in a safe, food-rich nursery that happens to overlap with some of the most popular beaches in America. Somewhere off the coast right now, there are young great white sharks in water shallow enough to stand in, and almost nobody in the water knows it. Number 1 isn't dangerous in the way you'd expect. It's just been there the entire time, invisible in plain water, while the city went on with its day, completely unaware. So here's what this list really adds up to: a spider that quietly took over the city in 20 years, a snake coiled beside trails people walk every weekend, a bear crossing suburban lawns a few miles from the freeway, an alligator that outsmarted an entire city government for 2 years, a mountain lion who lived and died as one of Los Angeles' biggest celebrities without most residents ever laying eyes on him, and baby great white sharks resting in the shallows of the most photographed beaches in America, close enough to touch, close enough that nobody even noticed. Los Angeles looks like the least wild place in America, a city of concrete freeways and manicured front lawns. But underneath that, it might actually be one of the last true wild edges left in the country. hiding in plain sight behind 11 million people who mostly never look down. There are sharks in water shallow enough to stand in off one of the most crowded beaches in the country right now while you're watching this. If this is the kind of thing that makes you look at your own neighborhood differently, subscribe, because next time we're heading to a city that looks even less wild than this one and somehow has more hiding in it. See you in the next one.